Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Good evening. Welcome to the Dhammapada program on Buddha Dharma TV. Today we are going to discuss verse number 104. And that is chapter 8. And also, let me thank you for coming and be faithful and come always to listen to this Dhamma talk. Thank you. This 108 verse begins with a nice, as usual, verse. Atta have jitam seyo, yochayam itara paja, atta dantassa posassa nicchan sanyata charino. This is a beautiful verse, another beautiful verse. Always Dhammapada is full of wonderful, beautiful verses. That means self-conquest is greater than the conquest of others. The victory of one who conquers himself cannot be turned into defeat. He remains a self-controlled individual who lies ever disciplined. So this was a beautiful advice by the Buddha. On one occasion, a Brahmin by the name of Anatta Puchaka, a Brahmin, so-called high caste man, came to the Buddha. I'm not going always to talk about the history of these verses, but here it is very important, it is very much involved with the deep meaning of this verse. This Brahmin came to see the Buddha and said to him, Venerable, I think that you know only the practices that are beneficial and not the practices that are not beneficial. His question is also very nice. Buddha answered that Buddha also knew the practices which were not beneficial and harmful. Then the Buddha enumerated 6 practices which caused dissipation of wealth. This is very important. Sleeping until the sun has risen. If you look at the world, I think half of the world is not African. Most of them are still in bed, in sound sleep. That depends, some work late nights, some whole night. So there are reasons. But in unusual circumstances, it's okay. But sleeping until the sun has risen, that's the first. And the second, habitual idleness. And third, cruelty and indulgence in intoxicants which cause drunkenness and negligence. That is the number 4. And sauntering alone in the streets and unearthly hours. That's the 5th. And the 6th is sexual misconduct. Keep in mind, these are very important things. If you want to live a decent, nice life, a peaceful life, get rid of these bad habits. He quotes 6 bad habits. Let me repeat. Sleeping until the sun has risen, habitual idleness, cruelty, and indulgence in intoxicants and sauntering alone in the streets at unearthly hours. And the sixth, sexual misconduct. For those who want to live a decent, peaceful, holy type life, please take these six under good consideration. Avoid these things. When the Brahmin heard this, when Buddha said that he also knows bad things, because he said to Buddha, Brahmin said to Buddha, you only knows what is beneficial. And then to Buddha answered that he also knew the practices which are not beneficial and harmful. So these six is good to take into consideration for one's success and to have a decent, beautiful, peaceful life. When the Brahmins heard this, when Buddha explained six things, he applauded the Buddha, saying, "Oh, well said, Lord Buddha, well said, teacher of the multitude, leader of the multitude. You know indeed both gain and loss." Now he comes out and tries to speak what is in his mind. So indeed, Brahmin Buddha said, there is none other that knows loss so well as I do. The Buddha said, you see, you know indeed, there is none other that knows loss so well as I do. You see? Then the Buddha considered within himself what motives actuated the Brahmin and asked him, Brahmin, how do you make your living? Buddha asked, now, Buddha also goes deep into, dig him out, he said. And how do you make your living? By gambling, Venerable? Gambling. But who wins, you or the other man? Sometimes I win, sometimes the other man wins. The Brahmin said. Then said the Buddha, Brahmin, a trifling matter is the victory of him who defeats another. There is no superior advantage in such a victory. No superior advantage in such a victory. But he who overcomes his depravities and so conquers himself is a better victory. For such a victory, no one can turn into defeat. So self-victory is a victory that nobody can turn into defeat. So he was so stunned by the answers of the Buddha. And then Buddha goes on, self-conquest is greater than the conquest of others. The victory of one who conquers himself cannot be turned into defeat. He remains a self-controlled individual who lives ever disciplined. So the self-control is very important, most important. Such conquest cannot be turned into defeat either by God. Then Buddha goes on, tell him, the man who believes who puts everything in the hands of God. Now Buddha goes on telling him, such conquerors cannot be turned into defeat either by a god or a spirit, a Mara, a devil, or a Brahma. Brahmins believe the world was created by the Brahma. So even Buddha says, even the Brahma cannot turn into a defeat, a self-victory of oneself. So these are very important, these things that Buddha explained him. What is the most important thing in the life? The man who gambles, he told what is the path to success, even in a daily life. And then he says, praises not the gambling winner, but the one who conquers himself. And encourages to get into self-conquer, and emphasizes the importance of self-conquest. The person who has conquered his own self. In Buddhist thought, Atta, soul or self, is mentioned at times for the conventional purpose. Because in Buddha, Dhamma's teaching, there is no Atta or self or soul. But for conventional purpose, for identifying a person. But the concept of no soul or selflessness, anatta, is a central principle of Buddhist thought. Apart from mind and matter, which constitute this so-called being, Buddhism does not assert the existence of an immortal soul or an eternal ego, which man has obtained in a mysterious way from an equally mysterious source. Mysterious thing in a mysterious way. A soul which is eternal must necessarily remain always the same without any change. Whatever, it must remain without any change. If the soul which is supposed to be the essence of man is eternal, it's eternal, there could be neither a rise nor a fall. Neither rise nor a fall. You got it? Nor could one explain why different souls are so variously constituted at the outset to justify the existence of endless felicity in an eternal heaven, an unending torment, in an eternal hell. It is absolutely necessary to postulate an immortal soul. Immortal soul. It should be said. I remember that a philosopher said, if I remember it well, it should be said that the old distinction between the soul and body has evaporated quite as much because matter has lost its solidity as because mind has lost its spirituality. Psychology is just beginning to be scientific. In the present state of psychology, belief in mortality can at any rate claim no support from science. No scientific proof, therefore there is no support from science to believe in immortality. Everything is impermanent. Nothing is permanent. This is the eternal truth. So this is what, in a nutshell, the verses number 104 and 105 says. Self-conquest is the best, is eternal. Others, impermanent, sinful. Therefore, try to conquer yourself rather than conquering the world and others. Self-control is the greatest control. Not even the Creator, Brahma. Nobody else can defeat, because one who has self-control, conquest, he is the greatest winner. Nobody can steal his conquest. The greatest conquest is therefore is the self-conquest. He will be eternally happy. So if you want to know how to conquer yourself, come and see the Buddha's teaching. That is the teaching meant for today and tomorrow. And his teaching is eternal, because it is forever eternal truth. May you all be well and happy.